Oh, oh my heavens, we're on. We're on. It's so easy to nod off. We come to a final tour report from L.B.Doubleyew, and this was a bit of a retrospective. Anyway, here for you: 15 years and 15 tours, a reflection by L.B.Doubleyew. Get rid of the hat. 1994, that's when it all started, and when I look back, I can see behind me. 1994, I can recall it as though it was only 15 years ago. I never really expected that we would still be touring in 2009, even in a display of blind optimism not witnessed since Stevie Wonder insisted on playing that game where you have to get the metal hoop from one end of the wire to the other without it going buzz. Could I have imagined it? Little has changed in all that time, well, in Devon anyway. Us players, on the other hand, are now what might be described as ultra-nourished and suitably less mobile as a result. What was life like in 1994? Well, Robbo confirms that a pint of beer cost £1.54. Normally I don't trust his memory, but you never forget your last round, do you? What a fashion in 1994. Well, it had us its knockers. Here are Ava Herzegovias in a wonder bra. Little did we realise back then that most of us would be wearing one on the field of play by the year 2000 to accommodate our very own Millennium Domes. Despite being a pair of tits, it sadly not helped our wicket-keepers much though. Hello, byes. At the time, Robbo was still in possession of his original hips and a wife. However, subsequently they've been replaced, allowing in both cases more freedom of movement. One notable absentee from that first tour was Sir Michael Moore. It's hard to believe that Mick didn't tour until 1997. Who can forget the après cricket fines session in Westward Ho? I recall that Robbo was Mick Fleetwood to Mick Sam Fox on that occasion. Mick is often seen to be rolling his own, and on one occasion this meant his bicycle on the Tarka Trail. Speaking of fags, one notable absentee in recent years is Elvis. How Robbo and Norsey have coped without their manservant is hard to believe. Of course, no longer a spring chicken and having aged incredibly, the no doubt wrinkled retainer would have earned the sobriquet Scrotum. Back in '94, we didn't have our stereotypical Scouse friend, Mr. Hulse, on board. On one of his first tours, he made off with tour funds. However, he did eventually return them, just in time to save Simo from a coronary. He had calmed down now, and these days is most likely to be found slurping Katie in the Beaver. I wonder how many beers have been sunk in the various pubs and inns that we have so lovingly frequented. Through many years we have, of course, our own favourites, although it has to be said that despite leaving a bitter taste in the mouth, some inns are not as popular as others. Over the years we have encountered all manner of grounds and opposition. Who'd have thought that we'd owe Scoggy and his Bible a real debt of thanks for ultimately leading us to Chittlehampton, a real jewel in the crown. We were indeed fortunate to acquire this wonderful end-of-tour fixture and all that goes with it. Hopefully fate's lent us a hand again this year with our newly acquired Cholmondeley fixture. Personally, the loss of some fixtures is a blessing. Holsworthy and Beeford spring to mind. The year we played at Holsworthy against a backdrop of the rocking carcasses of cattle was a scene that only Damien Hirst would have appreciated. We were prepared though, having witnessed a case of foot and mouth some years earlier, as Mick's attempts at entente cordiale were misplaced. Speaking of prominent English artists, does anyone know of where Tracy Emin got her inspiration for My Bed? This is described as an installation consisting of her unmade dirty bed with used condoms and blood-stained underwear. It could be described as a Batty-like exhibit. She hadn't witnessed the squalor of some bedrooms circa 1995. Has it really taken this long to get that reference in? We've experienced a variety of fortunes with hotels over the years. Typically, just when you've got it sorted with absolutely awesome accommodation, meeting all your needs, some miserable bastard takes over the place and it's time to move on. Nomads with gonads, you might say. I struggle to recall our first hotel, the Puffin, but thanks to our twanger friend Scoggy, I have a picture. The hotel was, of course, situated in Westward Ho. Incidentally, it's the only place in the UK that officially contains an exclamation mark. Although I can recall, upon our first sighting, some of us thought a different type of punctuation was needed. Westward Ho? Unlike our hotels, our mode of transport has remained very much the same. The minibus is a must-have tour necessary, which is... I'm going to start that again. I do apologise, Norsey. Unlike our hotels, our mode of transport has remained very much the same. The minibus is a must-have tour accessory, which has changed little other than these days Big Bob would more likely be seen snapping a CD than a cassette tape. A variety of folk have occupied the driver's seat, but it's always been Robbo who's riding shotgun, a kind of driving Miss Daisy. As a result, the reading skills of a number of tourists have greatly improved, whilst the assorted social faux pas have in turn reduced in number. When he didn't tour in 2007, the seat was left vacant. This will be news to Robbo, as he doesn't recall not touring at all. Initial tour driving was very much the preserve of Simo and Elvis. However, thanks to amendments to the Highway Code, a big knob is no longer a prerequisite, thus allowing the rest of us to have a turn. Ironically, since Geezer did this for a living, he never once drove. Perhaps he viewed it as a busman's holiday, in the same way he never handed out parking tickets, gave driving lessons, or indeed financial advice. Mind you, I can't be sure about the last one. I do recall him speaking to a Croatian about moving to Northern Rock shortly before popping down to Ladbrokes and placing a bet on Shergar in the 3:30 at Exeter. The odds were too good to miss, apparently. That we have about 18 blokes this year on this year's tour is testament to its ongoing appeal. Of those, Noobs, Norsey and Mostyn remain the only ever-presents. Some are returning after varying degrees of absence. Of those, I'm most delighted to see Colin Warner return. If we can find an eye patch, then he'll be able to recreate his infamous Long John impressions from yesteryear. Finally, a mention of tour legend Simo. He, of course, started the whole thing. Not only should we appreciate his excellent company, bowling and slightly less excellent batting, but his organisational skills. I never cease to be amazed at his ability to organise and plan ahead, his ability to cater for just about any eventuality, saving one in 1995, is superb. Sitting here writing this on a soaking, saturated Saturday, the thought of the 15th tour lifts the spirits. I can't wait to meet up again with everyone. I'll repeat my words of my article for Tour 10. The spirit of our tours is best summed up by one of Robbo's more astute observations in 1995 when we stayed at the then New Inn in Bideford. Sat outside one morning, Robbo said, "No matter who comes out of the hotel, you know you'll be pleased to see them." Having toured for this and many years, I've made a mess of that as well. Happy touring for this and many years to come, L.B.Doubleyew. Now, I don't know if L.B.Doubleyew is still with us because he probably is quite ancient now, but I'd like to thank him for all his words over the years, and I look forward to his report on the 2020 pandemic tour. Thank you and good night.